we're very happy to be here, and thank you, Frank, for this nice introduction, because basically I think what's more interesting in the context of a business school, and especially if you see the mission, driven by European values, we inspire and educate business leaders who will impact the world, and now we have one here who did that, and who does that. And I think, you know, from my experience, because I think I met Werner something like 12 years, possibly 12 years ago, I was immediately shocked and in love. And you will be as well in a minute, I tell you. Because he's just, he's not only an entrepreneur, he runs a family business. He's also wonderful in telling stories. So I thought, it would be a wonderful occasion for all of us to have a conversation with him and speak about what Werner does, but also what Bahlsen does as a company. But I think, the main focus is really on the personality, because I think that's the thing which will really make a difference. And I think that's also one of the big opportunities that we have here collectively, because we have this kind of safe space where we also allow questions and where we can engage in some kind of conversation. So whatever drives you, wherever your curiosity lies, please tell us, because I think that's, as I say, that's the perfect opportunity. We call this a live podcast. So basically we thought, when we engage in this kind of conversation, it's interesting to just record it, because sometimes people, just can't be here. René is always late. I'm happy that he made it. But, then people keep asking, what did you do? Why didn't you record it? So we want to record it, and we just had a conversation that, of course, in this age, content is the new oil. So especially, for this kind of, for a science and knowledge producing factory like ESCP, I think it's perfect to have also these kind of content. So I'm happy that you're all here, and I wish you a lot of fun. Enjoy the conversation. Our guest today, Werner, is, if you take the top list of most trusted brands in Germany, Bahlsen is always on the list. I was raised with cookies of Bahlsen. Leibniz Kekse made my day when I was a kid, and Bahlsen was always there. And it was just a fantastic brand which surrounded us. And I think it's not only true for Germany, although the brand is very present in Germany, but also for some other markets. But before I tell the whole story, I want to ask Werner to introduce himself. So Werner, who are you and what do you do?
Who I am? Well, that's difficult to answer, to characterize yourself. I can maybe answer what I have done. I have started my career as a pastry maker apprenticeship in order to really understand what we are doing. And that was a tough start, because in German Lehrjahre sind keine Herrenjahre. But it was a good start. Then I went to Zurich for business study. Zurich, I spent a year in Geneva and finished business administration in Zurich. Then I started in our family business, where I'm third generation. My grandfather founded this business in 1889. And I've done a number of different jobs. I was sent to Spain to run a company there. I first had to learn the language, and then our international president, we were organized in Germany and international out of a holding company in Switzerland. He all of a sudden left, and I became his successor, running 15 subsidiaries outside Germany with all sorts of problems. But that was a tough time, but very, very lehrreich, whatever that means in English. yeah, then as a family business, we, after the death of my father, who was the dominating or dominant figure, a couple of years later, we run into struggle within the family, which finally ended up that we split the company in 2 or 3 parts. You may know that we do all the sweet business, biscuits and cookies and cake, and we had another division doing all the salty stuff, which my brother took over under his first name Lorenz, Crunchips and others, and there was a third party. That was a very difficult situation because it really split our family. The struggle within that family, but I was dedicated to fight that through because I felt we were at the brink of really losing the business, because when the shareholders are fighting, you are pretty close that the banks close their books and other things happen. So I'm happy that we were able to clear that situation by splitting the company, which was a difficult and schmerzhaft process. But since 25 years now, I'm operating our core business, which you may know under the brand Bahlsen, everything which is sweet. And since 5 years, I left the CEO position and to join our supervisory board, because I felt it was time to get fresh blood on board and to pass over the reign. Well, that's all it is.
We will continue, but now we have to share one mic. I'm sorry.
It's okay, sharing is caring. So you've already shared quite a lot actually about your company. And so I'm going to proceed to the next question that deals more with the development of your own career, going more into the details about how it was for you to first start your career as a pastry chef, go into a business school, Switzerland, Spain. What were some of the challenges and opportunities that you've taken as a part of that journey, and what brought you into the leadership position of the company?
Some of the challenges. When I was a kid, or then 20 years old, I was not sure whether I really wanted to join the family business, because it was like a big cloud, and I was not sure whether I was able to match the expectations. But then I had a good conversation with a psychologist in Zurich at that time, which helped me really to gain some self-confidence, if you want to. And what really helped me was that after a couple of years doing this and that, working in different departments, all of a sudden I became CEO of our international business. And that was something where I didn't have time to think about whether I could do the job or not. I just had to. And we were at 15 subsidiaries throughout Europe and America, out of which one was doing well, 2 or 3 were so-so, and all the rest were in trouble. So that was really 2, 3, 4 years with a lot of troubleshooting in a real sense of the way, but it it taught me that in difficult situations you can't hide away. You just have to face the situation. And yes, I have made a number of right decisions, and I did make a number of wrong decisions. And then you have to live with that as well. And it's what I really enjoyed was to deal with different mentalities. I mean, when our biggest subsidiary at that time were in France, and well, this is the host here. You have to deal with French management differently than with Swiss or with American. And that was one thing which I very much enjoyed, because I learned that if you are able to not to adapt but to accept different mentalities without giving up your own position, but it's fun to work with. I always felt it was fun to work with different types of people in order to achieve a common goal.
Werner told you about that the company was launched in 1889, and it was always about creating and crafting good, as I call it, which is really interesting. But that, for me, the company was always interesting because he once had a line in German which said "Findig im Finden," which is something which I found really interesting. There was also one very special notion which was called TED, which I never found in any other company. Could you explore and explain a little bit what that stands for and what makes the company so special? And by the way, I was very happy because I could visit a couple of factories with Werner, and he has these, white suits. It's not a suit, but how do you call it?
Kittel.
Yeah, a white kittel. And it's basically, and he knows exactly what to do. He smells the dough and knows what's wrong, and he knows the machine, and it's just incredible. But please tell us a little bit about Findig im Finden and TED.
Well, first with the TED sign, my grandfather founded the business. He was not a baker; he was a businessman, and at that time he had worked as a young man in UK in a biscuit factory at that time, and when he came back to Germany, he found out that there were no biscuits in Germany. So he said that's an opportunity. 1889. So it's a bit quite some time ago, and then he started this business, and he was very international oriented. 4 years later, he went to the World Exhibition in Chicago. At that time, this was quite a trip. No planes available, just a sailing boat. And in order to present his cookies, he came back with some nice prizes. But one thing, just as one anecdote, when he was in Chicago, he had some spare time, so he went to the Schlachthof? Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse, yeah, which is not so normal in this profession. And he saw that they were slaughtering animals in a continuous way. And so when he came back to Germany, he told his technicians, I want to start baking cookies in a continuous way, which didn't exist at that time. So he developed with his people continuous business process. Today, if you know, everyone thinks Henry Ford has invented the continuous production. we can prove that we have been there 8 years earlier. Whether, so all the dictionaries are wrong. But that's perhaps something which we have kept. Mark mentioned this slogan, "Findig empfinden." We have, over the 130 years, had a number of crises, of course. We had two world wars, and the big inflation in the 30s last century. So for some reason, we have always had some people who were thinking ahead and thinking differently. And for example, you're a business school. It was in the 20s. They had a management which was adding costs up and then finally put some profit margin on top, and that was a price. But since the costs are rising, and prices were rising like that as well, and you know that this doesn't work continuously. Then they had a guy who had developed an economic system which was working differently. So they defined what is the right price in the market, and then calculated back how much cost could we bear. This simple example, but led to the action that in difficult times when the big inflation in the 30s of last century were there, they were very much looking at the market before looking at the cost, and that helped. And finally, they came up with a tin of biscuits for 1 mark, Deutschmark at that time, with 1 pound of biscuit, 1 Deutschmark, which was going up like that. So for a couple of years, they engaged every single tin maker in Germany because they had so much demand. So there were Findig empfinden. We have, looking back over 130 years, there were always some major events, major steps where they did something differently, and that brought up the next step. So Findig empfinden really is looking for new solutions, not doing always the same, and to believe it's going to work also for the next 10 years, but to hinterfragen. Don't know whether that exists in question. What you are doing, and finally that helped us going overcoming internal or external crisis, and coming up with some steps ahead. One other example, in the 60s, it was difficult with the trade, and then my father decided that we would start selling biscuits only for cash. No one had done that before, and they went to the trade and said, you only get the biscuits, and at that time they delivered to thousands of stores. We deliver the biscuits into the store, and we want to have the cash directly from that store. And that in the beginning people thought, now the old man is really crazy, but at the end, after 3 months, they had 70% of their sales in cash, which meant they had a lot of money, which, and if you compare that with today's business, where the trade forces us to deliver today, but they will pay in 30 or 60 days, you have to finance that. When you have cash in your pocket, it's much nicer.
Werner, thank you so much for sharing some of those setbacks and challenges that the previous generations in your family business had to deal with. What about your story and your contribution to the company? What were some of the most difficult points in your career where you turned those challenges and crises into new opportunities?
Maybe it's worthwhile to talk about the challenges and the bad decisions. We had a subsidiary in Spain which had lots of problems, and after years and years of trying it, I worked for a year in that company as well. We didn't make it, and finally we had to close that market. We do some export there, but through a distributor. But that's one of the big failures. We had, as I said, we have gone through some crisis. If you want to, it's this the struggle within the family is not something which I'm proud of, because it really was put the business in danger, and finally it split my personal family, because my sister all of a sudden, who had never she was 5 years older, and those of you who know an older sister, there is not a saying in German, but she was an example of an older sister who knew exactly what was right and what was wrong. And she felt, in 1 year we had a difficult time, and she came up to see me and said, "You are out, you should leave the business." And that ended up in a big struggle. I told her, "No, I'm not." And finally I forced my brother and her that we would leave the business and engage family, non-family management, which led to really a big struggle, where I knew that neither my sister nor my brother wanted this solution. And at the end, we ended up in splitting the business in different parts. I was not at all happy with it, but it was at that time the only solution to survive for the business. And I can say that both the family of my brother with a salty business as well as we are doing well. But this were very painful time, because I had tried to keep our family together, and that apparently didn't work the way I had tried to do it.
I think it's very clear that this was a very painful experience. How did you manage to overcome this? If you would like to share this, if not, of course, if it's too sensitive. But what helped you?
Well, I had two things. First, I have a group of friends, of entrepreneurs, who meet till today 2-3 times a year, and we are discussing business issues. And I don't know whether some of you have heard about YPO, Young Business Organization, where you have a small group of friends or colleagues, and which is a place where you can really speak openly, and everything stays there, and you can be sure that it's a sort of confidential conversation. That helped me in a couple of situations where I didn't really know what to do, and I asked these friends, I need a special meeting, and there was a code of conduct that within 1 week we met with four or five of them, and I got a sort of feedback on what I wanted to do, and I had another one, an advisor who was an Organisator, ja, im Prinzip das, was du auch bist.
Coach.
Yeah, sort of a coach. And that helped me also to overcome some, he sent me to, or advised me to go to a special course in North America dealing with conflict. And that I was not very good in dealing with conflict because I have tried to avoid conflict, but finally you can't avoid it. And so it helped me very much to address the conflict and not to move around and believing that it will go away. It will not. And so there were a number of, I would say, positive situations in a difficult, or positive elements in a difficult situation, which at the end worked out fine. And although it was not my preferred solution, the split of the company, finally I was quite proud that we ended up with a viable solution. When you look into other business, other family businesses, you have also some famous names who disappear because the family couldn't get their act together. And so finally it was a difficult situation, but at the end we could make something at least constructive, not only for us, but also for our people.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I find it very extraordinary. I think the audience would agree how humble you are, Werner, considering the position that you had in life and all of the contribution that you made to the German society through your multi-generational business. And you talk about things such as taking advice from people, having coaches, going to therapy. I think this is a really great example of how to do things well. But I'm sure there are also some qualities in you, maybe some superpowers that you have that maybe are not very obvious to us, but are the qualities that helped you to succeed in ways that you have. So could you share with us a little bit your secrets?
Well, talk about your own quality is always difficult, and maybe others can describe me better. Well, I've always tried to be myself and not to play any role. I think it helped when I started to work in the business, and as a pastry maker, I could talk to our people in the production as a sort of a colleague, because I could talk to them about their issues they have, etc., and didn't talk from top down. I think that's one of the things, and I believe that when you are also business leaders, there should always be some part, if you have the possibility to do something outside your core task. I had the opportunity. I was asked whether I would co-found an international school in our hometown in Hanover, and after I did that and with a group of people. Finally, I was the guy who had to deal with all the problems there. We had 5 directors in 5 years. So, but at the end, the school survived, and today we have 600 students of an international school with the international baccalaureate at the end, etc. So it was not directly my core business, but I've ended up like like the Jungfrau zum Kind. I don't know whether that exists in English, but it was great because it helped me manage a situation which had quite different connotations, different elements. If you deal with teachers, that's a very very special issues. I wouldn't say academic professors. They are probably all different. But yeah, it made me also a bit humble because you have very special personalities and special challenges. And that is also good to look at a different situation than just your business.
I have a very easy question, because when we were on the car, we were speaking about leaders, and what's a good leader. But what makes a good entrepreneur, from your point of view?
I think an entrepreneur always has to be curious and look for new solutions. That's probably all.
Curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity. Because doing what exists and doing it over and over again is not the solution for the future. And well, you have to be willing to take some risk, because not every new venture works well. I mean, you know our business, you know also the failures I had, and but that's part of the game. If you don't want to accept some failures, you shouldn't start. But then you shouldn't call yourself an entrepreneur.
Those are powerful words. I'm just wondering that aside from all the exceptional work that you've done in your business and as an entrepreneur and innovator, what it is that powers you in your personal life that gives you energy? I've heard that you are a big fan of classical music and that you're even involved in an orchestra, playing cello. And I would love to hear a little bit more about the experiences that you make being a part of an orchestra, trying to play in harmony with others, and how this experience could also translate into the learnings for entrepreneurs and business leaders, how to lead people and how to play well in a team.
Well, then that's an interesting question. This orchestra I'm playing with is called the Management Symphony, and consists of about 100 people. So, most of them are really very talented musicians who have one guy who is has a human advisory headhunting company. Now he has, during his studies of business, parallel, he did the study of flute. And at the end, he decided either to be a musician or to take a different path. But he plays on a nearly professional level. That's not me, but it's fun. This management symphony plays once a year. This time in September in Leipzig, under the conductorship of the local conductor, and with the help of 2, 3, 4 people from the local orchestra. And we have a public concert. It will be Tchaikovsky symphony. It was really a challenging musician. And the interesting part of it is that you have all Führungskräfte, but who have to really accept the leadership of a conductor, and not everyone can be the leader. So you have to really work as a team there, which is a good experience. And at the end, it's fun. I met a number of people there whom I would have never met in my ordinary life, because they come from science, they come from law, from teaching, whatever, and we have one common interest, that's music. I just got this morning, I have got an SMS from Benjamin Sonne, who has finished, apparently, or has studied here. Unfortunately, he saw my name, and unfortunately he couldn't be here today. He's one of the violinists there. So it's an interesting setup, and it teaches also to be humble vis-a-vis great music.
From music to culture, because I'm, as most of you know, I'm very much interested in corporate culture and how organizational culture can develop. And I think, now is the time. It's interesting to have this broad mix and very diverse group of people here, because, culture and organizational culture is changing, because values are changing. The upcoming generations do expect different things at work. What makes a great culture for you? How do you get the balance right between people feeling well and this kind of humanist approach and performance?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, because I don't think there is an answer one fits all. First, I believe that as a leader, you have to be authentic. Otherwise, the organization will feel that you are playing a role, and that's not very convincing. I think it can help, or it does help, when you accept weaknesses, or even to accept that you made a wrong mistake. I give you one example. We had McKinsey in-house years ago, and they made all sorts of calculations, and finally came up with a recommendation that we should stop our Lebkuchen business, that's a gingerbread for Christmas. And well, by looking at the numbers, it really made sense. And but it did not really resonate with our people. It was they came up with the recommendation in May, but and this Lebkuchen business is something which takes place, of course, in autumn, and it was supposed to stop the business 1 year later, and but it was clear that our organization didn't feel that this was right, and we had a hell of a lot of discussions, and and then finally, I don't really know what was the trigger point, but just before Christmas, I called in our leadership team and I told them, look, we are not going to do that. We changed that. Enthusiastic applause, because the whole organization felt this was wrong. It may have been by number crunching the right thing, but we came up with different solutions. We then set a pretty tough restructuring program to make this business profitable, and but it was very clear the organization did not accept this decision. So yeah, sometimes it helps to acknowledge that you made a mistake and try to correct it. I think it's quite easy. Just be yourself, and that's it.
Very easy.
Yep.
You make it sound easy. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. You make it sound easy, but of course in practice it's not. Try leading people. You're probably all familiar with how challenging it can be. It sounds to me that you've really managed to listen to your people well and understand their needs. And you mentioned before that authenticity was a value that you really felt aligned with. So in the story that you just shared, it's clear that you listened to the people and you stayed authentic to the company. But I'm sure a lot of people who are currently participating in executive MBA program or alumni who are leading people and organizations would like to know a little bit more about some of the tips and tricks when it comes to leading people and when it comes to building great cultures. What are some of the structures, values, rituals that you feel like you've installed that really contributed to a great culture and help you to lead people and to motivate teams?
Well, I don't think that there are any tricks. As I said, you just be yourself and yeah, listen to people. And for me, it was always very important to we have four plants, or maybe another story. To be authentic, we had 12 or 15 years ago. It was clear that we had a cost problem in our production. Production was too expensive. We had too many people, and probably one or two plants too many. So and we came up with a program which was not led by a consultancy, but made by a small group of our own people. We had learned about Kaizen and the Japanese method of lean production, and out of that we went a couple of times to Japan to really understand that better. And then I asked a small group of people to apply all these principles to our main production site outside Hanover. And finally, they came up with a recommendation that we should more or less halve our number of people which we had there. So at the end, we came up with a proposal which did reduce the number of people working there by 220.
Oh.
Out of 600, so on 1/3 of the people. And then people thought, well, how can we do that? And the delicate and so on. I told them, look, the only way to do that is to be frank. And so we called for a Betriebsversammlung, and I stood up and told people, I am here to give you a very negative and very painful message. And I explained that to, wow, 700 people which we had there, and finally told them, look, we will have, in order to survive to survive the whole business, we need to do a tough restructuring here, and this will reduce the work, a number of workers by over 200. And at the end, I got applause after that speech, and our production manager, he was totally astonished that, well, he came from a different company. He said in other companies they would have been screaming and all sorts. Why did you get applause? I told him, because I'm just honest. I've just told them the truth, and we had then, and that was really impressive, it was a process of about 3 years, and those people who knew that they were going to lose their job were continued to work until more or less the last day. And that was, I'm very proud of our people there. But I think be authentic. That's all. Basically, it's easy, but sometimes it's not.
This would have been the perfect last word, but anyhow, I do have one last question, and we open, the arena for further questions. Because I think, since we're somehow in a very dark age, the wars are happening, we do have a lot of conflict, and the economic situation is worsening. Politically, we're getting to extremes. What's your take on responsibility and also on entrepreneurial responsibility? And that's my last question.
Sorry, I didn't quite get the question.
Well, how do you perceive, how do you see responsibility, or what's your responsibility as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think responsibility as an entrepreneur is, of course, you have the responsibility for people. I mean, we have 2,500 people, but they have families at home, so finally we are responsible for 10,000 people, more or less. And that doesn't mean that you should not, you can't move, but I think it's important to take that into account with everything, especially when you have to take difficult decisions. I think an entrepreneur should not shy away of difficult decisions, but take it in a responsible way. And of course, as I told you my story with this international school, I think we all are not only doing our job, but we are also citizens. And that means we have to take responsibility, everyone, in his situation. One maybe a bigger responsibility, one a smaller one, but I think we are all responsible for also our country, and that we should take responsibility, or try to engage maybe in Vereine, in other things, because I don't think we can let the the society or our community run by others. There are a lot of people who engage in Sportverein, in all sorts of political things, etc. I think it's important to engage for society, whatever possibility you have. That's right.
That was, huh?
Just one more question.
Yeah.
But this question is for you guys, I promise. Yeah, the last question I have for you, Werner, is what would you advise to people here in the room or people who will be tuning in later on this question of getting ahead? And my question that follows up that one is, does getting ahead involve leaving people behind?
Getting ahead, how do you mean that?
Getting ahead, like, you know, making progress professionally, getting to new heights, reaching new milestones, becoming more successful in whatever success means.
Well, I think we all have to aspire a positive, let's say, impact on society, on business, etc. And I don't see that we leave people behind. But if you define yourself as a leader, I think it's important as a leader to have a positive impact in whatever you do. And that doesn't mean leave people behind, but motivate people to move ahead. And I think it can be, as I said before, in Sportverein, even in your family with your own kids. We have, I think very much, we have a responsibility. Each of us has a responsibility for our society, and that we should take serious. It's not a given that things, and look around the society, look around the world. A lot of things are in turmoil, and I think you as leaders should be able to take part of a positive development. Everyone in his own situation, but I think very much we cannot just rely on others that they will do the right thing, but we have to engage ourselves.
Well said.
Great. Questions? Luc.
Yeah, thank you very much, first and foremost. That's super insightful. I have so many questions. Let me just say first, I've been with McKinsey for 15 years. I would never have recommended to shut down a gingerbread business. This is a business that makes me very happy, so that was important for me to say first. Maybe a question that touches upon entrepreneurship. The profits you generate with your family business, do you mostly reinvest it, or are there other industries you're interested in, or other clusters you're interested in? Do you maybe have your little investment committee to invest in some startups, new solutions that you could potentially integrate into your business, but have maybe a different interest for you?
Just, I replicate very shortly because, otherwise we can't record it. And I don't know whether, did you all understood, what Luc was saying? It's basically about, how to reinvest the profits, if they have some kind of investment committee and where Bahlsen does invest.
First of all, if you want to develop a business, you should leave the major profit in the company. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And we have a very strict rule that between 75 and 85% will remain in the business because we need for investments, etc. Besides that, we have some small activities with, I would say, limited success so far. I had started a different biscuit line on a more, let's say, healthy type of a business, which after 8 years of losing money, I closed down. Unfortunately, probably 2 years too early, because today that would have been the good thing. We have in Berlin a small thing called Kitchen Town, where we try to help. That's something Mark is responsible for, because we went to California and we met a guy who has a sort of a bigger bakery, which he offers to small startups to that they could use that activity, that technical equipment to advance their own business. And we try to do the same thing in Berlin. So we do some smaller things. I can't say that this has been of a tremendous success so far, but we should not give up.
More questions? Yeah.
I'd like to ask, how do you approach innovation as a company? How do you approach it, basically? Generally, how do you look at this topic of innovation?
How do you approach innovation?
Well, that's a great question. One thing was exactly that we worked with a small external innovation group, which did not have the stunning success. Also there, that if you want to get some innovation from outside into the business, you face things like not invented here. And although I sometimes pretend that we are better than others, we face the same thing. Yeah, how to face innovation? I think be curious. And right now we had a discussion. Some of you may know that chocolate is skyrocketing in cocoa. I went to California to see some startups who are working with chocolate in a different way. And maybe we can make a joint venture with one of those guys, because the chocolate thing can be a real threat, or is a real threat for our business. In the past, we've been proud of a high content, chocolate content in our products, but now it's a sort of a danger. I have no stunning answer for that question, but I think stay curious and look for new solutions, new ideas, even if they in the first instance are crazy. Those are probably the best ones.
Can I have a follow-up to this?
Yeah.
Just to understand this a little bit better, and I was a head of innovation in the last 8 years at Deutsche Bank, so I know a lot of these challenges. So I'm really interested in how do you institutionalize it? Is it more like getting the right talent into the organization? Is it once you have the people, is it rotations? How do you get the mindset? Is it, rotate them through different areas? Is it a lot of training? Is it, entrepreneurs and residents that you get in, that where you hope, some of this spark will then get to other employees? Or?
Well, there is no one-fits-all question. It's we try to get input from outside. As I said, this guy from California, he was just by chance yesterday. He was in day before yesterday. He was in Hanover, and we walked him through one of our plants. We try to have discussion groups with some externals about that. But the main thing is, of course, you have to facilitate or to help people who have ideas, that they will come up with it. I think we have a lot of creative people, but if they hide the ideas or just work in their home kitchen and share that with some friends, it doesn't help us. So yeah, I have no stunning idea there, but it's really innovation is something which, and it's not only product innovation. It's when you always Deutsche Bank, it's business concept innovation, and I like the word hinterfragen. What is the normal, how we do business doesn't mean that we have to do this business or we will do business tomorrow also.
Thank
Yeah.
Just maybe one question. Now you're on the board side, so what skill did you have to develop as board member rather than executive?
What was the skill that you had to develop when entering the board other than running the company?
One thing is a difficult part. You have to, I must say that in German, sometimes die Klappe halten. If the new CEO does something different.
You have to shut up.
Yeah, you have to shut up and let him do the job. Nevertheless, I have every 2 weeks, I have a chat with him, and he tells me what he's doing, and sometimes he asks me for an advice or an opinion. But it's clear I'm no longer running the business, and that is the Selbstverständnis, the self-understanding of your role is different, and has to be different.
Anna, du was, ne? Oder? Anna, du?
Just another question. Were there ever any darling you had to kill, especially in innovation?
A darling you had to kill? Yeah.
Any what? Sorry?
If you had a darling who you had to kill, like a beloved idea.
Yeah, quite a number. As you can imagine, I'm a trained pastry maker, a pâtissier. I have a lot of ideas there, but that doesn't mean that these ideas are good for business. Sometimes ideas which doesn't seem to be very creative are better for the business than others. So, and we have unfortunately introduced some really nice ideas as new products, but we didn't then have the sustainability or the Nachhaltigkeit, stamina to continue this for 2-3 years. For some time we had too much innovation, so the one innovation next year killed the one this year because it had not been really penetrated in the market.
Sorry, who was next? I didn't get it. You? Yeah.
Maybe a follow-up question before coming from executive to a board. How was your journey on this one? I mean, I understood you came into the job of a CFO more forced a little bit, but was there any event which you said, oh, now the world around me is changing so fast, or there's so many new events that I rather go from an executive to a board member, or was it forced, or how came the change? How was your personal development on phasing out from a day-to-day business?
What was the personal development on phasing out?
Well, there was no formal process, but I had my father in my memory who didn't give up his job until he was over 80. And that did not help the business. It did not help us as a successors, because we then had to move around him, which is not a good idea. And I was personally very clear that I don't want that. And I can say that the new CEO, he does a number of things differently than I would have done, and I have done, but that's okay. And he will make mistakes, and as I have done. But I think it's time to say goodbye, and that's good for the business.
Can I do a follow-up to this?
No. Yes, later. Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Bahlsen. I'm in the executive MBA, and today and yesterday with René, we were talking about attitude of entrepreneurs. So most interesting, and especially I wanted to ask you, have you ever felt not to have under control anything in your company, and how did you cope with this feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you deal with a lack of control, right?
I've had a number of situations like that, I can tell you. And sometimes then it's just be yourself. One thing I told you, I've worked for 1 year in Spain in our business, which then had quite a number of problems there. And we were installing a new line, and in order to do that, we had to stop the main line for 3 weeks and modify it and this line, and then it should run. And it didn't. It just didn't work. And this line provided 60% of the total volume of the business. And I was in Germany for a wedding of a cousin of mine, and I called them and heard through the phone, big trouble. So I told the cousin, you can marry by yourself, and went back to Spain. And Monday morning, there were a number, the senior management was sitting in their office, but not taking care of everything. But the problem was in the production center. So I went there. I was 26 at that time. And it was, people were screaming. A young lady whom I had promoted to a team leader, she was crying because everyone was falling over her, etc. So I spent the whole day, I didn't have a solution. And the technician said, we need more time, forever. I spent the whole day walking from one to the other, hugging some of those people and say, look, we are working on it. And I couldn't change the actual situation, but I could try to accommodate some of the stress situations. And well, I haven't learned that in business school, but just be yourself and do what you feel is right to do.
Hugging people always helps. So maybe one more question?
So I have just one question to how to build this brand, because I think everyone in Germany know Bahlsen, and we heard from everyone here stories that about their childhood. It's going from generation to generation. What do you think was done build this trust from customer to your brand, and with the new way of marketing what we have with all this social media, are you using this tool also to continue to have this contact with your customer and to build this trust further? Thank you.
How do you, how have you managed to build trust for your brand over the years? How do you use recent communication channels to be in touch with your customers? And we've also seen the beautiful new rebranding that you've done. And it would be also nice to hear a little bit about how that experience has been for you as well.
I could give you a very short and easy answer. Ask someone like Mark to make your brand.
I'm sure he was not there in the beginning.
No, he certainly would. He certainly would refuse. Yeah, branding is probably one of the most difficult issues for an entrepreneur of our business. And yeah, there is no right or wrong, and it is sometimes you do the right thing and the result is wrong. You are familiar with our current branding with the big logo Bahlsen on it. That was acclaimed by the specialists, and we've won some prizes, but the consumers just didn't buy the product. And yeah, and finally we decided, after a very painful process, to come up with a new design, which you have seen right now, which is just recent. The result seems to be positive, but we haven't. The proof of the concept is finally the sales results, and it is you can talk to lots of people and you get 100 different opinions, and that's probably the most difficult question to answer. What is the right direction in branding? And I can continue telling you some wrong decisions which I took and we took, but that's boring in a way. But especially in branding.
But do you think that we are changing the mindset? Because until now, we was also always designing what we think is good for the user or for the customer. And we need maybe to change to think about what really the customer need or what is their expectation, like doing market research before starting, for example, something like that.
Well, yes, what the customer needs, you don't need our products. So there is no reason why you have to buy a biscuit. But there is a lot, at least not a rational one. But there's a lot of emotional reasons why you should buy and eat this product. And of course, that's the art of the game. This guy here told us that there is no right or wrong, but you have to, especially in our with our products, it's the emotional part, and it's not the rational part.
Thank you. Sorry, I think now we're done because we're approaching 8 o'clock, and I think it's, it has been a wonderful session. We've talked, usually, I do a lot of these kind of things, and we usually stop after 30 or 40 minutes, and we've talked now for 90 minutes nearly, so it's quite a lot, and I think we can engage in some more conversations. It was lovely to have you here, Werner, and I know that you hate to talk about your superpowers, So we confronted you with stuff that you don't like, but still, you know, you're so humble, you're so respectful, you're so responsible. I just love it to have you here. It's amazing. And I think, you know, if you take these 3 keywords and keep them in mind that Werner said, because it's about curiosity, it's about courage, and it's about being yourself or being authentic. And then you will go your way. And I think, you know, he's the perfect proof point. So I thank you so much, and thank you for your friendship. It's amazing. So thank you all.